For a big game like next week, will you lead with emotion or with tactics?
I think we would have time to discuss all of it, depending on when and how you feel, when is the right moment to talk certain things and other things.
In the changing room before the game?
Normally there are two moments. One that is tactical in relation when we have the lineup and the final touches, what we want to do, and then emotional for sure.
Do you enjoy this part of the season?
I love it.
Why? Is it your favourite part?
Because I love winning and the silverware is very close.
Still having something to play for in May, is that pressure or is that progress?
I think that's joy. I mean, that's what we want to be when we start in May to prepare the next season, in June to start to prepare the pre-season. That's the reason why we do it.
And I get the sense from you and listening to so many of your players this week, you have no doubt that you can go to Paris and get a result.
Yes, for sure. If you ask a fan about an opinion about me, about a player when we have lost a game and we had a really bad game, if you ask him in the first 5 minutes, the answer can be anything.
Yeah.
If you ask him after half an hour, I don't know. If you ask him after 3 hours having sit with his wife and have a good time, maybe the answer is different. 3 days later, different. 3 months later, probably completely different. So it depends when you ask and how you want to achieve.
Your players have spoken a lot about visualisation. Is that something that you yourself use as a tactic?
I do, because I think at the end, what it gives you confidence, joy, is to believe that you are capable of delivering something that you are very passionate to do. And the more clear you are, more confident, more prepared you are, more you're going to enjoy it.
So how do you use that? Is that something you talk to your players about?
Yeah, it is more something that we do more individually, because you need to understand which players are more open to do it, and then how you install slowly certain things that I think can be very powerful for the team. I think this season, is the best example of what this club and this team is about, and the resilience, the character, and how we have overcome so many difficult situations. And even though we have won a lot of games, that we are still in good positions in the biggest competitions, we're still not satisfied.
When I was researching for this, the two words that I kept seeing over and over for Arsenal this season were one you've already mentioned, resilience, and the other one was adaptation. Would you say they're two words that have really summed up Arsenal this season?
I think so, because we've been through a lot of the things that were possibly impossible to plan. But I think the word that we use is win in any context. That's what this team is made of, you know, that it doesn't matter what they throw at us, what happens, and we always have the mentality that we're going to be able to win it and find a way to be better than the opposition and get the result that we want. We are very disappointed that we haven't won the Premier League this season. Take the opportunity as well to congratulate Liverpool, because I think they merit and they've been incredibly consistent, good. The availability has been incredible from the top players as well, and we're not able to do it, so now we have to finish the season as high as possible.
That availability point you mentioned there, is that something that you feel has held Arsenal back this season?
100%. I think I was waiting for the players to finish the warm-up against PSG at home, and before the match I was walking through the tunnel, and then I see 7 players lined up there. 7 players.
Not in their kit, in their home clothes watching.
And those players are Tomiyasu, phenomenal defender, someone he gives a lot in the back line. Next to him, it was Calafiori, a player that is a starter, that we just signed him. He's been out for 5.5 months. Gabriel Magalhaes, one of the main leaders in that dressing room, the best defender. Thomas Partey, our starter 6, out of the game. Kai Havertz, our starting number 9, 4 months out. Gabriel Jesus, when we brought him back to life and he was shining and doing, he's out now for 8, 9, 10 months, I don't know how long. Jorginho, another player with huge experience to play this kind of game. 7 players of that caliber out. We are where we are. And so this team is something special.
But you've handled it and you've dealt with it. And do you think dealing with those kind of challenges sets you up well for a night like next Wednesday in the Champions League?
Because we've been able to do that, to compete, and still the margins against them were tiny small. I'm very confident that we're going to do it.
How much are you personally looking forward to going back to Paris? I think it's your first time there as manager.
I can't wait.
You said you learned a lot when you were there about wanting to be a coach. Is that the case, and why?
Well, because I was so young, I had a lot of experienced players around me that they really look after me. The first one was the manager. They gave me the opportunity, Luis Fernandez, to to have my first professional experience that I will be grateful forever. And then because I learned so much about experienced players like Heinze, Pochettino, Letici, Ronaldinho, Kocha, Anelka, so many players that were incredibly good.
I want to talk about some leaders in your team now. And a lot of people compare Declan Rice and Martin Odegaard. But for you as manager, is it nice to have the different styles of leadership in your team?
100%.
And why? What do they complement each other?
Because, for example, Martin is not the most vocal one, but if you want a role model that that represents the club, the values of the club, the work ethic, the consistency, the right behaviors, habits, is immaculate. It doesn't matter. If you win, lose, draw, rains, is December, September, if he's been a father, it doesn't matter. He's always there, leading by example. Declan is another kind of character. He's very vocal, very loud. He has a massive presence, you know, and he impacts the game in a different way. I think
Atletico Madrid went to Paris and won. Liverpool went to Paris and won.
Yeah, Atletico Madrid
City
went to Paris and won.
They won late on.
But PSG were playing horrible then.
And Liverpool, when they went there, somehow got a win.
Everybody in that Liverpool squad, including the bus driver, should have been arrested after that game.
Robbery.
For robbery. It wasn't armed robbery, but it wasn't far off it. So
Man City and Villa went there and lost. How did they get a win that'll take it to extra time or maybe get them through? What do they need to do? Can they?
Yeah, they can.
How?
Well, Partey's back. That's a bonus. They can push Mikel Marino a bit further up, where he's been brilliant for them in terms of, you know, filling in for Kai Havertz, who, frankly, I don't think has been a big miss, to be fair, when you see what Marino has done. They've got to get Saka into the game more. They've got to get Odegaard in the game more. I thought he was on the fringes, which he quite often is in big games, to be fair, Odegaard. He pokes these passes a lot of times against the Southamptons and the Ipswiches and you know, the West Hams, but I think he has to step up in the really big games. You know, I thought Declan Rice did the other night, as per usual, tried to drive him forward, but they're going to have to defend really, really well. Can they outplay PSG? I think they tried to do that the other night. Never quite got there. So I don't think they're going to outplay João Neves and Vitinha and Fabian Ruiz. I think we saw that. So they have to be a bit cuter about it. I think it's going to be a tough one for them. The one thing I would say is Arsenal are a very good side, right? They're obviously not been good enough to win the Premier League. But if they wanted to kind of solace, and I know this game was at home and it wasn't in Paris, is what Aston Villa did in the last half an hour of the game of Paris, in the game against Paris at Villa Park, I think was a wake-up call to Luis Enrique, because really, let's be honest about it, the chances that Villa created and should have scored, PSG could easily have been out of this competition. And I know it's ifs, buts and maybes, but you had guys missing headers completely from 6 yards out, like Eric Konza. So there is a warning to PSG there that they can't get out of their shape, because when they did at Villa Park, they got torn apart. So if they lose their shape, this Arsenal side has got the ability to take them apart. But in terms of a football game, you know, PSG, the transition from where they were in the games that you mentioned to how they've been in 2025 is utterly astounding. And I know they brought in Kvaratskhelia from Napoli, and he's a wonderful player. But it's all the other players in the team as well, how they're operating. You know, Doué, Barcola when he comes on, Dembele's been magnificent. The two guys in midfield, you'd look at them and say, you know, Fabian Ruiz apart, you know, João Neves and Vitinha, you'll never play in the modern game. You can't play in the modern game. You're not big enough, you're not strong enough, you're not quick enough. But they're so clever and they pass the ball so well and they can put their foot in. They're absolutely brilliant midfielders in there. And when you add in the Spaniard as well, they're really, really strong. Now, the midfield, you could argue, is Arsenal's strongest position. So I think it's going to be a great game. Obviously, two teams that really won't take a back step. But from what I've seen from PSG since the turn of the year, I have to stick with them getting to the final and probably beating Arsenal on the night in Paris.
If this is left to the football, PSG winning. If it's left to chaos, Arsenal have got a chance, like we saw, and I thought that was well said by you there about Aston Villa when they went 2 goals down at home. They tried everything. They knew they were going to leave gaps, but that's what they have to do. So 2 good second legs. So you've got Inter against Paris Saint-Germain as your Champions League final. What's your Europa League?
After early dominance from PSG, Arsenal took control in the middle of the match, attempting 7 shots worth 1.6 xg between minutes 38 to 56. But Gianluigi Donnarumma made 7 saves in this span, and Gabriel Martinelli couldn't quite get on the end of a golden opportunity, albeit one that would have likely been flagged for offside late in the first half. The Gunners thought they had evened up the match on a glorious, misdirection-heavy free kick in the 2nd minute of the second half, but scorer Mikel Merino was offside, and the goal was disallowed. Arsenal withered late, attempting just 2 shots in the final half-hour, and PSG had 2 huge chances to add to their lead, but Bradley Barcola narrowly missed from 11 metres in the 84th minute xg 0.34, and Gonzalo Ramos hit the post from 12 metres in the 85th xg 0.37. After weathering the early storm, Arsenal will head to Paris with some level of hope. They indeed found advantages in set pieces that they can hope to exploit next week, and even with PSG's late chances they were the superior team over the final 55 minutes of the match. But it's pretty telling that I have yet to mention Bukayo Saka. PSG was able to render the Gunners' best attacker almost anonymous. Saka managed just 1 shot, and it was a pretty speculative effort from 25 metres out. He did solid work in the ball progression game, 9 progressive carries, for 7-on-1 on the 1s, all of which came after those dishevelled first 20 minutes, but if Arsenal actually generated a threat, it likely came from Martinelli and Leandro Trossard, who combined for 6 of Arsenal's 10 shot attempts and all 3 of their most dangerous ones. Aside from a set-piece jackpot, it's hard to see Arsenal winning this tie if Soccer isn't more involved in the box. Based on the current ESPN bet lines, PSG minus 550, Arsenal 320, PSG has about a 78% chance of reaching the final. This makes perfect sense considering A they'll be defending a lead at home and B they've probably been the best team in Europe since December. In their last 10 Champions League matches, They've outscored opponents by a combined 28-8, and They've now won at both Liverpool and Arsenal. This is an absolutely dynamite team. However, they only showed best in Europe form for about a quarter of the proceedings Tuesday, and their overall form hasn't been quite as flawless of late. They did, after all, give up 3 goals and nearly a big lead against Aston Villa, and They've taken just 1 point from their last 2 league matches. Arsenal found their legs and nearly created the set-piece advantages they were hoping for. They will give themselves a chance to do what the Arsenal women did last weekend, overcome a deficit against a brilliant team in France. It's just hard to actually predict them to do it.